Hey, what's up guys? It's Preacher Wayne. Today I'm trying to learn how to actually fight in Fortnite because I'm dog doo-doo. So I went on YouTube and I searched up how to actually fight in Fortnite, and I'm trying to watch the best video. So I turned on this filter to find the one that has the most amount of views. And this video popped up right here from Momentum. How to actually fight in Fortnite, the 7 fundamentals. Let's watch the whole thing together, and then hopefully I can learn some things to actually get better at Fortnite. The first thing he talked about was aggression. Basically like how to W key people. The first thing he talked about was you need to make sure you get really strong opening damage. He said when you first want to shoot at somebody, you need to make sure you get the most amount of opening damage. So it might be better to have an AR out instead of a shotgun to make sure you get maximum damage. You don't want to risk hitting them for 30 with the shotgun when you can hit them for 33 times with an AR. Another thing he talks about in the aggression fundamental is when you crack somebody, you should be playing more aggressive and trying to get in the box. But if you don't crack them, they'll probably be playing more slow and they'll actually cook the dog out of you. So you need to be playing less aggressive the less you damage them, and the more slow you need to play, if that makes sense. The more you tag them, the more aggressive you need to be. The less you tag them, the less aggressive you need to be, and the slower you need to play. Then he talks about how to safely fight people aggressively so you will die less and you're more protected. He talks about this method called diagonal box fighting that makes your enemy stress and make mistakes. Then he talks about box fighting people from above so that way you're protected. He said if you're above them and they're trying to make space, you can easily piece control them from the top so you can get easy eliminations. The next part of aggression that he talks about is called reloading. He says that when you're W keying, you shouldn't be reloading your guns. He says that to make sure you're not reloading is that you should use a few bullets against their wall and then pickaxe it and then use a few more bullets. He says that reloading after tagging someone a little bit is a no-no because somebody can get some minis off or even some slurps, which makes those tags useless. He says that if you're breaking a wall and putting a ramp in their face, you're most likely going to be able to capitalize on that by piecing up another spot on where he's going to get a free elimination. He said that this is super important for high ping players because you're most likely not going to be able to take a wall, so it's better to just place that building in their face so that way they move. The next section he talks about is called playing defensively. He says to be the best defensive fighter, you have to be able to take the opportunities that you are given. What does that mean? The first defensive move that he talks about is making sure that you place a cone or a ramp in your box while you're trying to fight defensively. He says that it's super important that you have one in your box because better players will be placing a cone or a ramp in your face. The second thing that he talks about when playing defensively is making sure that you can take a solid peek when you're looking at somebody. He says that you have to make sure you peek at the right time, but he does say that if your opponent can read your moves, then peeks isn't the right play. He said that you can easily understand whether your opponent can read you based off of his movement when he's playing aggressively. The next thing that he talks about when playing defensively is called pre-fires. He says that when you're doing pre-fires, you need to have good timing and you have to have a good setup. He says that pre-fires are easier to do when you're playing defensively than when you're playing aggressively. He says that pre-fires are a lot easier when someone's using a pickaxe than when they're shooting at your wall with a gun. He does say though that if you're higher ping, you will take more damage if you're trying to pre-fire than someone with low ping. He said that if somebody's shooting at your wall with an SMG, doing a pre-fire is a bad idea, but because bullets will leak through. An amazing thing that he says right here is you can do a wide edit and then reset so that way they actually shoot the wall. The fourth thing he talks about when playing defensively is actually doing wide edits, which seems kind of weird to me. He says that if you want to do wide edits, it requires good game sense. And you get the game sense from doing stuff like zone wars or realistics and even ranked games. He said the more you play, the more you get game sense, and the more you'll know when to do a wide edit. The fifth thing he talks about is actually just being calm when you're playing defensively, even when you're on low HP. He says that the best thing to do when somebody tags you, you're low damage, is to stay calm and think to yourself, how can I damage them back? Instead of freaking out and spamming a lot of builds everywhere. The sixth thing that he talks about when you're playing defensively is actually making sure that your bullets are reloaded instead of healing. He says that it's so much more important to make sure that you deal that counter damage so they stop being aggressive, so that way you can actually fully heal instead of just popping off one mini. Which is a very interesting thought to me. I never really thought of it like that. He says that it's so much easier for somebody to W key you when you're trying to heal than if you're confidently reloading in their face and trying to shoot back. He does make the argument though where maybe popping a slurp is worth it though, but he does say that reloading your guns is more important than popping minis or big pots or med mist. But right now there's smoke in the game, so it might be worth it to pop smoke. He says that if you're fighting somebody good, they won't let you pop heals anyway, so it's better to just reload your gun and try to get some damage back on them. The next thing he talks about is what do you do when you actually deal damage when you're fighting defensively. And he said that when you do get some good damage on them when fighting defensively, you need to switch to that aggressive playstyle that he talked about earlier and use some of those tricks to finish off the fight fast. The third fundamental that he talks about on how to actually fight in Fortnite is called tempo switching. It's the ability of knowing when to fight fast and when to fight slow. When people are playing defensive, they don't really know when to switch to aggressive fighting because they're not able to recognize right opportunities. He says that if you really want to be a good player at Fortnite, you need to be able to make decisions in a split second. And he says you get the ability to know when to switch the tempo from doing things like 1v1s, 2v2s, or 3v3s. The second thing he said to know how to switch the tempo is from playing ranked. And the third thing he said to know how to switch the tempo is by grinding scrims. He says that when you're fighting people in creative, you need to make sure you're actually fighting good people, because if you're fighting bad people, you'll get away with making mistakes, but the good players will punish you for making mistakes. He says that if you're really trying to get good, you need to make sure that you don't play with your friends that aren't that good at the game. You need to find good people to grind with. He says that it's super important to find somebody that is passionate about improving, because finding somebody that can help you improve is better than just grinding by yourself. Then he moves on to fighting fundamental number 4, which is mechanics, which includes things like building, editing, and movement. He says that good mechanics does not include the speed in which that you edit. He says that that is actually a big misconception in the Fortnite community. He says that having good mechanics is being able to build and edit consistently without making mistakes, while being able to be aware of where your opponent is and being ready to punish any mistakes that they make. That is good mechanics. He says that a lot of really good Fortnite players don't do as well as they should because they're more focused on builds and edits than they are of being actually aware of where their opponent is. He says that playing slowly and having more awareness is actually better than playing high tempo and having low awareness. The next fundamental that he talks in how to fight in Fortnite is called peeking. And in this section, he's gonna actually teach me how to peek properly. He says that when you're doing a popular edit called the peanut butter, you need to make sure that your head is underneath the gray transparent line right here, so that way you're actually protected while doing the peanut butter. And you need to actually jump to the left to do it properly to make sure you take no damage. He says that you need to make sure you actually hug the wall when doing it to be more protected. And if you jump backwards while doing it, you're actually more likely to get hit. He says that a peanut butter peak is not perfect unless you have a cone on the floor and a flat above your head. He says that the cone on the floor will elevate you and the floor above your head will actually push you down faster, making you harder to hit. He says that the same rules apply when using a window peek. And whether you're doing a left window, middle window, or a right window, you need to make sure that when you confirm it, you are to the left of the gray transparent line on the wall. He says that when you're doing a window peek, you can do this thing called a sidestep, where you crouch quickly into the line of sight, shoot, and then uncrouch and move back to the left, and it'll make you harder to hit. Interesting, I didn't know that. He says that if you are in the back of the box and you're doing a peanut butter edit, you need to make sure you hug the left wall so you're harder to hit. If you're more in the center of the box, you're gonna get hit really hard. He says that if you can understand how to peek really good like this, then you can get really good at the game. The next fundamental he talks about in how to fight in Fortnite is called having protected piece control. What is protected piece control? Well, protected piece control is actually when you piece somebody or full box somebody while being fully protected behind a window edit or a peanut butter. And it's not something that's super popular. He says that knowing how to piece somebody through a window or a peanut butter while being protected will be able to elevate your gameplay so much. He said that this mechanic is something that you have to learn in creative while you're free building. He says you have to learn how the grid system actually works so you can know how to make these protected piece control moves. And you have to commit them to muscle memory so that way you can easily incorporate them into your gameplay. The last fundamental he talks about in how to fight in Fortnite is called awareness. He says that awareness is actually the most important factor in how to win fights in Fortnite. He says that you want to play slow enough to where you always keep track of your opponent, whether you're playing defensively or aggressively. He says that awareness is a combination of what you see and what you hear. He says that if you actually lose a fight in Fortnite, he says that your awareness needs work. So today I learned about the 7 fundamentals of actually how to fight in Fortnite. Let's see if I can hop into a game and if I actually got any better. Dang it!